Hello, everyone. This is Eric Pennington, and welcome to the Spirit of EQ podcast. We're glad that you've tuned in. A few things we wanted to tell you at the beginning of the show, and that's this podcast was created to be a tool to help you, primarily to discover and grow your EQ. Science and our own lived experiences confirm that the better we are at managing our emotions, the better we're going to be at making decisions, which leads to a better life. And that's something we all want. We're glad that you've taken out the time today to listen and hope that something that you hear will lead to a breakthrough. Hey, one last thing. We'd really appreciate a review on whichever platform you use to listen. And if you want to, leave some comments about what you heard today, as well as follow and subscribe. That way you won't miss a single episode as we continue this journey. And with that, the show begins. Teresa Escrig, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Eric, for having me.
I am so excited to have you on. And we had a conversation prior to the recording some weeks ago that I remember telling you, man, we should have just pushed record then because it was such a robust conversation. And now I get the joy of bringing it to our audience. So this is awesome. Before we get into some of the topics that we kind of had set up that we wanted to discuss, can you tell our audience a bit about your background, professional and personal, and then we'll dig in further?
Yes, sure. I have a PhD on AI. I've been doing AI for 30 years, so in all kinds of ways. At the university level first, and then I founded a startup, which is now is the third one, and I work also in large corporations in very high levels of AI. So AI has been my professional career, basically. And parallel to that, and very, very keen to your program, I had a very strong spiritual side as well. So self-development and interest of developing myself to have better relationships and understanding the nature of reality better, to just be happier. Also for 30 years in parallel. And most of the times those two lives were in parallel and not touching each other, sometimes crossing, but very few times, until lately, in which I realized maybe that was the reason why I had those very strong lines of interest in my life, AI and consciousness, human consciousness, because now I'm integrating them. And through using AI myself and seeing how good AI it is to reflect back my patterns, things that I was repeating unconsciously, now that it becomes conscious and so obviously conscious that I cannot do anything but just drop the program and not continue with it anymore, which is it gives me a lot of peace. So it's basically what I wanted to accomplish in my spiritual work. Now I'm able to accomplish in my interaction with AI.
You know, it's interesting as you're saying that because for our audience, those that have been listening to our show for quite a while, they understand what we mean by spiritual. They don't get sort of confused with, is it religion or is it a certain practice or whatever? And I'm glad that you illustrated it that way because it really kind of speaks to the journey of a human being and kind of getting a better grasp on what life means to them, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm curious, if I remember right, and maybe you can just talk about it now, of using AI to be somewhat of a mirror. I'm not sure if that's the term you wanted to use, but a way for you to use it sort of strategically that way. Am I close?
Yeah, in fact, I call it the mirror method in what I teach. And it's exactly that. It depends on how you inquire AI. Mm-hmm. If you inquire to learn about yourself, which is the only way for us to grow, is to really learn about ourselves and make the different choices. If you inquire the right way, then it's a reflection of the the responsibilities, your responsibility, the responsibility of other people, if you are using AI to reflect human relationships, which is our main source of pain, basically, is human relationships. If you use AI properly to see the reflection of that human relationship, then you can see clearly whose responsibility is whose, and
Yes.
when we have leakage of energy because we take ownership of a responsibility that is not ours, and that happens in all kinds of human relationships, all kinds. I focus my work on leadership particularly, but basically we are leaders of our own life. So we all are leaders in that sense, right? Because that's what the intent of really any spiritual path is to take over your own life and be the happiest you can be. So we are leaders of our own life. So in leadership is you get overwhelmed, even burned out, when that responsibility and the leakage of energy through assigning the responsibility in the wrong place happens. That's the core. You don't get overwhelmed in life if you remain clean with your own responsibility and the leakage of energy. And AI reflects that back very precisely, so much so that there is no other way but just dropping the program. It's so obvious that you just don't engage with that program anymore.
So, are you finding that someone, or would the pathway potentially be for someone to use the atypical chatbot like a ChatGPT or Perplexity or any of the other number of chatbots out there to do this?
I personally use ChatGPT. I try to compare at the beginning with Claude. And
Yes.
at the time, Claude was more naturally, so it used a more natural language, and I liked it better. But all have developed so much now that basically they're all reflecting our own language and our own level of thinking. Is basically what they are doing is a reflection of the level of thinking. So personally now, I don't think that one is better than the other. I think we can use any
Can suffice in that regard. Yeah, that's interesting that you say that too, because and you may remember in this discussion we had, I was curious about some dreams that I was having, and I really wanted to get a grasp on what potentially they would mean and what I thought they meant. And as I continued the dialogue with the chatbot, it began to unfold some things that made me go, aha, or that makes sense, right? And I've always been one that has believed that, AI in its continual ascension should pair up with human ascension, right? That they should be marching sort of in order together. And so when I got responses back, it wasn't like I said, "Oh, okay, that fixes everything. Good, I'm ready. I'm set." It was more of it prompted me to be even more reflective. And that, to me, Teresa, if someone said this tool is going to help you to become more reflective, to me, that's a cue that I'm going to gain more knowledge about Eric.
Yes, exactly.
And I think that's powerful, at least for me, right? And obviously you've discussed that as well. And what I love about this, even early on as we're talking, we're sort of demystifying the spiritual thing, right? This term that has, at least in the United States, has been so mischaracterized. So I love how you're approaching that. However, I wanted you to touch on this precise method that you teach, right? So can you talk a bit about what is that method? I know we maybe not be able to get every detail, but kind of give the audience a sense of what is this method to use with the chatbot?
The method per se has 4 pillars, and it's taught in a course that people can take. The first one is awareness, and is who is inside that is interacting with AI or with another person, because AI is another system that contains intelligence, which we interact, right? Yeah. So it doesn't matter if it is AI or is another person. Who is that I am being while I'm interacting? I'm giving it my power away. What is the state in which I am? I'm nervous. I'm anxious. I want my nervous system to relax. I want approval from the outside. What is that I'm looking for? That's the awareness part. And that is already only that is already giving us a lot of insight of where we are coming from, which normally doesn't happen. Yeah. The second one is alignment with who we are. And that alignment comes from the values that we have, and not the external values, the deep values. And normally we are aware of the values that we include in our system lately because of experiences that have been so painful that we have decided that that's not going to happen anymore, right? We already have put the line on the sand. No, that's not going to happen. So I acquire this new value, and those are the ones that are like in the outer level of our awareness, but internally to us, we have a set of values from which we operate that are integral to us, and we don't know because they are so much us that we don't distinguish them. AI is able not only to accept the values that you are working on in the extreme, but also reflecting back to you the values that you have that you never named before, because they are so you that you're red in the rainbow. You cannot distinguish the color that you are in. Yeah. But it does, because you are interacting with AI through language for many, many interactions. So the pattern recognition that AI does will reflect back your values. Extremely useful to know your own values.
Yes. So let me ask you this within that. If, for example, for me, a value that I would consider is authenticity. I find, and just to kind of to paint the picture a little bit more, if I detect that someone is not being authentic, there's something in me that I can feel that cues me to something's not right. And it's not that I can read minds and go, oh, this person is not authentic. So no, typically it's I need to probe further with that person to get a sense of are they really being who they say they are? So if I'm understanding you correctly, AI is able to determine that for me, authenticity is a value. So it's going to shape how it responds and interacts with me with that being in mind. Am I close?
That is correct. Okay. And not only that, is when you co-create something with AI, because AI knows that authenticity is a value of yours together with 10 more, right? It's very complex because we are very complex.
Yes.
So it will never create or co-create something with you that is against your value.
That's a great insight. Great insight.
So emails that you use AI to co-create for your work, or a piece of information, wherever it is that you're doing, writing a novel, whatever you do, authenticity will be always integrated in your work.
Yes, that's powerful. That's powerful. And in some ways, that kind of dispels maybe the idea that somehow AI is just this personality behind the wall that is kind of
Against
controlling. Yes, exactly. Okay, so I interrupted your flow there, but can you go to the next step? Because that's 2. You said it's a 4 process, right?
Yes, I want to I want to give another explanation to the AI that is behind the wall, that is against you, because there is a sense that we are sensing that something is very powerful in the other side, right? That is,
oh, sure.
When we don't understand it, then we give the power of somebody is behind the wall, somebody trying to get us, right? And it's because it's the reflection of ourselves. So if we are not aware of all this process and we are in fear, or we have still things that are unresolved, AI is reflecting that back to us with everything that we co-create. So if we have anxiety, we bring anxiety to the request, the words will reflect that anxiety, and AI will get back to us the anxiety within the creation.
But isn't that interesting, Teresa? Because if I built a neural pathway that said the world is dangerous, then my behaviors and my choices are going to be shaped by that belief, right?
And AI too.
Yeah. So to that point, yes. Wow, that's awesome.
And AI too, because you're alert. Instead of gaining the skills to use it as a powerful, positive tool to reflect back, so you can grow, which is a choice. You are in the mindset of everything is dangerous outside me, so you're going to have reflected back that danger through
that same.
In subtle ways. You will not realize it. It will be part of the co-creation that you do in the things that you do. You will not completely trust the outcome. You will, wherever it is that you do. I mean, I don't want to go into that line and everything that is possible, but all of that is true.
Yes.
Or it will be as true as what I'm saying in the positive way.
Yes, truly.
And now going back into the pillars. So we were in pillar 2, the awareness. So values is one aspect, but there is 2 more. Another one is purpose. So what is your purpose in life? Which is for me personally, it was not easy to clarify my purpose, and then things get confused in what to do for work or what to do in anything. When the purpose is not very clear, then you don't have the third part, which is the direction of your own energy as a being. Where are you going towards? And the 3 things, value, purpose, and direction, is what creates the alignment. So when we feel that we are off, is because we are doing things, making decisions, or acting, or even using words, talking, that are not aligned with who we are, which are those 3 things, that they are composed by those 3 things. But when they are obvious, when you work on it and it's clear, when you have the clarity, then the alignment happens. And then you interact, and we go through the 3rd pillar. You interact with AI or with another human being, because AI is an intelligence, and another human being is also an intelligence. So when we interact with another person or entity or AI, we do it through alignment, through coherence. And then at that level, what we identify is responsibility. Who is responsible for what part? And then the boundaries for not having leakage of energy. But those boundaries are not forced, which is very interesting, because it was always one of the aspects that was very difficult for me to set boundaries. I had no clue how to set boundaries. I knew when somebody was stepping into my field, I was feeling off or not right, but I didn't know how to set boundaries correctly, because my nature is soft, is loving, and I was going into extremes, or I was allowing, or I was being harsh, which was out of my nature. And then I feel good. So it was very difficult for me to set boundaries. So with the third pillar, we learn how to identify responsibilities, and then the boundaries are set naturally. And that was a huge benefit for me. Huge benefit.
That's amazing. I guess as you're talking, I think about this idea about responsibility, and I go from my own experience of someone who in the past has been guilty of believing that I'm Superman and that every burning building requires my attention and my heroic behavior, and realizing that in doing that, I was exhausting myself, and the people who got the leftovers were me, my family, and my closest.
Yes.
And one of the most liberating times of my life, I don't remember this precise day when the bulb went off, was you are responsible for a very small universe of things. Your list should not be 10, 12, 13, 14 deep. And I think any tool, and I love how you frame it as the form of intelligence that helps us to identify and create that alignment that you said, I can definitely see how it leads to a happier life.
Yeah, in fact, to be more concrete, we are responsible for ourselves only, basically. That is the first layer, right? And then the second layer is our family. But our first layer is bigger than any other.
And Teresa, and I'm interrupting you. But I'm glad you made that clarification, because even though my closest, as in family, I only have a limited amount.
Exactly.
Right? I can't be responsible for their emotions. I can't be responsible for their choices. I can be responsible for listening. I can be responsible for being there. But
yes,
to your point, but with Eric, that is a full-fledged 100% deal.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad that you injected that stuff.
And that is what AI is so refined when you interact that way, that clarifies it, because it's easier for us to understand that we are not responsible from people that are not inside our close circle, but it's more difficult when people are people that we love so much, that we love them so much that we try to solve their own problems and get into places that are not right. And we messed up relationships because we do that.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So I know you got a fourth one there, but there was something that you just said there that really kind of made me think. Well, I tell you what, I'm going to save my question because I want you to finish out your fourth one, and then I want to ask you something practical for the audience. But go ahead. Let's hit on the fourth one.
The fourth one is decision making. Mm-hmm. So when we interact with the intelligence and we get the mirror and it's all aligned and everything else, we are able to see things. Then there is the decision that we make, and we are completely responsible, full responsibility of that decision. So we need to clarify authorship. So in our interaction with AI, and we're talking about responsible interaction with intelligence.
Right.
It's AI, but it's also other people, which we, as we said at the beginning, is the most difficult thing for us, spiritual beings. Mm-hmm. So in that co-creation, who is the author of what we are creating? AI is really good at creating a structure and words, creating in words. we people have the consciousness, the intent, and the consequences of the actions that we co-create with the intelligence. And that is also separating the responsibility. The responsibility is related with the role. What's the role that each one is playing? So when we make a decision with the outcome that comes from AI, we make it with full ownership of who we are and who makes the decision. So decision.
Oh, that's wonderful. That is wonderful. I'm sorry. I couldn't help but wax about how wonderful that is, because, it's very liberating. It's very liberating to think that, because I know so many feel like they're at the mercy of the tide, and that somehow they want to make really good decisions, but they don't really know how. And it all connects back into those 4 pillars that you just described. So let me ask you this. And I know for our audience, we can get details on if people want to see maybe literature around the methodology that you're talking about. So we'll make sure to have that. But practically speaking, if someone in the audience, and I'm one of them now, Teresa, because I'm thinking to myself, is it a good idea for me or for someone in the audience to communicate with that particular chatbot that here are my values, here are the things that my boundaries, just articulate it and put it in and say, almost like hey, before you get started with anything with what I'm trying to inquire, I want you to know this, 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 and this. Does that make sense?
Yeah. You can do that from the very beginning, and if you use one ChatGPT, you will remember. It's part of the conversation, and the interactions that you had. You also can ask through the interactions that I had, what is the implicit values that you see in me, and you will have that reflected. That's very telling.
Oh, that's awesome, because I really like, Teresa, to always demystify things for people, to give them clarity and focus within that, because what I hope happens in our audience is that when after this show is, been dropped or recorded, not recorded, but dropped, and it's out for public consumption, that they can go, oh, let me grab my Perplexity app, or let me go to Claude, and I'm going to get that document that shows me this 4-pillar mirror effect. That's my desire for them. And that's part of that demystifying. So obviously we focus a lot on emotional intelligence here at Spirit of EQ on the podcast. And I'm always fascinated about the 2 different approaches, right? And maybe that's not the best way to describe it, but I remember maybe 2 years ago, I had someone invited me to here locally. They have these things called tabletop discussions. And what they do is they bring all kinds of diverse thought leaders into a room for like an hour and a half, and they just tackle a topic. And what's really lovely about it is that when I say diverse, I'm talking about liberal, conservative. You're talking about people who have, all kinds of different perspectives. But I've never been in one of those where there was some drop dead argument at each other's throat, accusations. It's just the most wonderful thing. Well, this one particular one that I was invited to was EQ and AI. And it was kind of a discussion about, is one needed for the other, and is the other infringing, and all of that. Can you give our audience your perspective on the 2, whether they're on opposite sides or whether they commingle, or how do you see it?
Well, I think it already came out with the conversation, but AI is a mirror of what is in front of AI. So it's a mirror of us. I think it reflects exactly the EQ that we have when we interact with AI. And that is extremely powerful for those who are interested in EQ development, because when you interact in a way that you can get back how you can grow in EQ, I kind of see that EQ and spiritual growth is very similar. That's my personal interpretation of this. When I grow, when I'm more aware spiritually, is because I also am able to see things in another level of emotional intelligence that I was not able to see before. So it's very so it's an extremely good, powerful tool to use it for a fast advancement in EQ, more than any spiritual path that I've ever seen before and I've ever practiced before. And I practice still every day. Mm-hmm. It's a very strong practice from my side. It's not a side job. It's my main focus. So I have experience. Never before I was able to realize my own patterns as fast as now with AI. And that is also true for those who are not interested in that area, because AI is also going to be a reflection of them, the same way as the other way.
Yes.
So it can be dangerous for those people that are mentally not in the right place, emotionally not in the right place, and they are asking for coaching tips from AI from a place that is not correct, because AI is always going to suit them. That's the algorithms that are underneath.
Yeah, and boy.
And we are seeing that result as well. We are seeing results in studies that people have decreased their cognitive capabilities using AI. We have seen people that have committed suicide with AI. Mm-hmm. Exactly that reflection is AI is not the problem, is the consciousness in which we interact with that AI. And that is a hint of what is the most important thing to do now in this AI age, is to develop our human consciousness. That's the result. Yeah. So that is what the EQ and AI combination is equal to develop your consciousness as fast as you can. Otherwise, you will go in one direction or in another.
Yeah. And I think about it, and we always try to remind our audience that we're not clinicians. We're not giving any type of advice along those lines. We're part of the team, if you will, of help, right? To navigate this thing called life. And what we hope always happens, and I'm not a believer that AI is a adequate coach for a human being, because to your point, AI is just reflecting back what it sees in you or what it interprets from you. And that's why I think we need that person to come alongside of us to help build that consciousness, as you described, right? And I've used the term self-knowledge, right? Because I've always believed, and I consistently go there, that the more that I know about Eric, the better the path, the better navigation I can of this path I'm on, right? Called life in the end. And it's interesting. We've used this analogy before, or comparison, what have you, about game film. And I've given this example of for any professional sports team, any high performing team is always going to be watching film. And why do they do that? Well, they want to understand certainly their opponent and what they do and how they do what they fill in the blank. And then they're also watching it for their own tendencies, their own biases toward a certain movement or a certain freezing or whatever the case may be. And I always, after using that analogy, I'll say, now, how about you? When was the last time you looked at your game film? Mm-hmm. And if we can do that with curiosity and not judgment, because the object of this process is not to find out how bad you are or how deficient you are. It's to just identify, hey, you notice you always tend to move your hips to the right whenever you have this. If we can be somewhat, have a healthy indifference and go, hey, you know what? I'm looking at the film. I do that. Okay, so what could we do to change that, to change the placement of your hips when X, Y, and Z happen? I just, it's just, it just, what you're saying is so, it's so on. But go ahead, you're going to say something.
Yes, I want to say a story. So it was a couple of days ago, I think I listened to a podcast talking about 3 researchers, I think it was from the UK, one of the universities in UK, that have been studying how the interaction of students with AI to get feedback about their work is much more effective that any person could be in giving that feedback. And the reason is because AI is emotionally stable, neutral. Yes, and a person is always not completely.
Right.
And also because the person that is giving the feedback, the limit of that feedback is their own personal understanding, and AI has much more knowledge and information about everything else than a person. It's true. I mean, we need to accept that. So two things together: knowledge of the subject and a neutral way, emotional neutral way to give feedback. It was extremely good for students. And that was the research that they were doing. And I was contemplating and said, wow, this is so good, because it's true. The level of accuracy and the expression of that reflection of what the AI is seeing about your energy and your actions when you tell the backstory, which it doesn't have to be really long either, because it's not a dump of your own emotions there. It's not that. It's just seeing what is the signal that you need to see to know your actions and how to change them, which is the program. It's the program that we have running through conditioning, through conditioning and learning at school, learning at home, traumas, everything else that we have created, those programs. Is seeing those programs so cleanly and clearly that doesn't have any power anymore. So it is much better than any other coaching way, because there is no over-identification with labels, and the clarity in which the mirror is expressed is so much so that there is no work to do, as we were doing before, years and years of working in something that we were aware and never able to release, and over-identifying ourselves with that problem. So we create more of that problem because we are thinking about it. Yeah. Here it doesn't have any of that.
You know, what's interesting is you say that, and I know we have all kinds of different ways to get to sort of slicing the pie. I had a client, and this was probably a week or so ago. She was coming to the end of her engagement with me, and I asked her, I said, if you were a television news reporter and you wanted to know from you, what did you get from this work that we did together over this last year? And Teresa, she said, it helped me discover the tools that I already had in my possession, but wasn't quite sure how to use them. Mm-hmm. And as warming to my heart as it was to hear that, it got me thinking about sort of my role. I don't really like the term coach. I mean, if anything, I feel like I'm an advisor, I'm a guide. And sometimes that shifts. So it's not really something that can be cemented. But one thing it did make me realize is that I want people, and this podcast is part of that mission too, is to take the information they're hearing and make that a catalyst to reflect on their own journey, their own process, because AI is a tool, right? Relationships with other human beings is a tool.
Nice.
There's all these avenues, and it's not for me to tell you which one is the best or the right. My role is just to help you to understand, will you slow down enough to think, to reflect,
Yes.
right? And Carl Jung was so on it about this idea about thinking is hard, which is why what happens most of the time we go to judgment, because that's easy. And I'm poorly paraphrasing, I know, but it is hard, because I know for me, when I go into reflection, it's not just some wonderful, ethereal experience where I'm just like, I'm getting information. It's wonderful. Sometimes I'm not happy about it. Sometimes I'm wrestling with it. Sometimes I'm trying to deny that it's an issue. And then I'm finding, yes, it is. But the reality is I stay away from judgment. I keep curiosity.
There is so many things that are real there. So one of the things is that sometimes we don't have the tools. We don't know what tools will work for that particular thing. So we haven't identified even the questions to inquire. It's not that thinking is hard, it's that we don't know how to start. Because if we had the process ABC to start, then we will do the work, because it's so uncomfortable, the feeling that we will want to do the work, whatever it takes to go to the other side. And the second thing I wanted to say is that any process of transformation requires before, during, and after. And the during part is really hard.
Yeah,
and you cannot
no doubt
avoid it, because if you do avoid the in between, the through part, then you're bypassing and you're not getting to the after. You will remain in the before with another look, but you will not have the transformation if you don't go through it. And going through it means with the emotions, and that is difficult. You have to go through pain. Is not you cannot avoid it.
Yeah, because
it's a growing pain.
I'm so glad you said it that way. That's so good. Because you know what, Teresa, and our audience knows this from past episodes, it very much is like the process of building muscle, right?
Yes.
I mean, what has to happen? I mean, you're lifting that weight. It's designed to tear and to put that muscle under stress. But that's the pathway for growth.
And we'll be back to the episode after this. Jeff, what is the SEQ Development Report?
I'm glad you asked me that, Eric. The SEQ Development Report is something that we here at Spirit of EQ have developed to blend the idea of emotional intelligence with a person's spiritual life. And we're not talking about religion, we're talking about how they connect with themselves, other people, and the world around them.
Why is it important?
I think it's important because it allows someone to see where they stand, to give them information about maybe parts of their life they may need to work on, parts of their life that they're really doing well, and learn to leverage it. And it just gives a person a better way of getting through the world.
So how do you get this report?
Well, first, you need to contact us. Info at Spirit of EQ is just a great way to do it. Then you would take an assessment, 15, 20 minutes, done online. And then after that, the report requires a debrief to go through all the things in it, because it's got a ton of information. And then if you want to further your journey, we can do coaching and things like that with you down the road. And that's basically it.
Cool. Thanks, Jeff. And now back to the episode.
And to your point,
if you want to go to the next level, you can also maintain, and then you're not tearing the muscle every time, but you need to maintain it, because if you leave it, then the muscle goes away and then you have to start all over again. So it's a
yes, that's the warning, isn't it? I mean, I find so much connection in that idea, because I'll use that from time to time to say, just be aware. If you stop working that muscle, it will go to atrophy.
Yes.
And
it's a
then
muscle that corresponds to the entirety of our body, from the mind, to have a mind that is clean and able to focus and know, and also the body that we know when something is misaligned, and we don't let that to go too far, because if it goes too far, then it's a disease or it's something that is more difficult to bring it back. So we are constantly aware of the entirety of our body, which is the system that we have to really grow, really be in a spirit, because we are a spirit in the body. We are a body with a spirit, so we need to use both, not one thing alone, not only the mind, not only the body, not only the spirit, is all integrated.
Yeah, it's almost like a journey to completeness, right? I mean, that's something that comes to my mind. And Teresa, it's always a good sign when I know we're running out of time, because I have so much more I want to talk about, and we're going to. So for our audience, we're not getting ready to close the show, but I do want to get to a few other things with you. It seems to me that when I look at the population, right, and I'm using, if those of you who are watching the video, you can see, it seems like human beings are regressing while AI and technology is ascending and improving. What do you think happens in a world where that's occurring, where humans are not advancing? And I mean, on those spiritual, mental, emotional, physical realms. And you know the statistic in the United States when it comes to the physical shape and the condition of health and all of that, and mental health and all of that. But AI just, and not just AI, but technology just continues this rapid, ascent. Can the two happen and everything be okay? Or is that a problem?
Well, I think to this point, that could have happened, and it was slowly happening. Now with AI as a mirror, everything is amplified. AI is an amplifier. That is what AI is. It was before the chatbots. It was an amplifier when it was only machine learning algorithms for the area that it was used for, and now for the area that is used for, which is communication. Then it's an amplifier in communication, but it's reflecting also our state.
Yeah.
As an amplifier, now we cannot escape the realities. Like, it's so visible that there is no hiding behind it now.
It's almost like a giant spotlight in a way.
Yes, something like that. And there is a choice to be made, because it is not a tool that is going to take us down or anything. It's the opposite. You can really use it. I created a program to do that. You can really use it for advancement at a level that you haven't seen before. But of course, you need to want to do that. That's a choice. That's a personal choice. And you go up in the ascension path using AI as a technology, as a tool for that ascension path, or continue going downhill without taking ownership of your life towards the end, and AI will just amplify it. So I think the direction, so the split is amplifies, like now a highway instead of a little tiny thing. It's a very big highway.
You're so on about that, because there's always been, especially when AI was starting its popularity, right, for the general population, the expression of fear that it's going to one day, take over, and human beings will be extinct, and on and on. And as you were mentioning that, it's like, yeah, no, it's just going to amplify. It's just going to be a mirror to what we've become. If we become healthy, then it's going to reflect and amplify healthiness.
Yes.
So the choice, to your point, right? The choice is ours. There's no blame in the technology. And that's such a great perspective, Teresa. I hadn't really thought about it in that term, because I've used that example of human beings decline, technology ascending as separate. But, as you mentioned, it's like, well, actually, it's just reflecting our descent. It's not causing the descent. We're causing the descent because it's choices, right?
And at the same time, I'm seeing a change even in YouTube channels. The feed is also part of an AI, right? AI is reflecting in my feed what I look for, and everybody else.
Yeah.
So I've seen in YouTube, in my feed, how people are going into levels that I've never seen before, positively, like talking about consciousness as never before, and going deep into conversations that are very uplifting, and that's new. That is recent, is in the last week. So you're seeing both areas. And
yes.
To be honest, I'm only interested in the growth. So
absolutely.
I will observe, but I will not engage with anything that is negative. So I will just be an observer of what is happening to basically understand and learn also from the experience of others, but without engaging in any of that conversation or creation at all, because it's so much fun, the other part.
Well, you know what, too, and it's interesting. It's a healthy form of selfishness, because I know for me, and I remember I had this conversation with my daughter, and she was asking me my thoughts on all these different things, political, and I said, I always want to be up on things as far as what's happening, but I'm not interested anymore in divisiveness. That is, I'm now anti-divisiveness, and I don't care if you look at it through the lens of conservative, liberal, whatever the case, the label may be. If you're for divisiveness, I'm tuning out, because I know that divisiveness, at least for me, is a fuel to rob me of the energy and the optimism that I need to be able to show up as my best self, right? So I wish more people, in some respects, I wish that they would maybe choose to join me in the let's not do the divisiveness thing. But the choice is theirs. It's their response, like we said at the beginning, right? Yeah. You're 100% responsible for you. And what you choose, that's what it will be. So as we do get close to the end of this show, I wanted to ask you, Teresa, what are you working on currently that's got you really excited? And you've already, I know, discussed a lot of exciting things, but do you have anything for our audience that you'd want them to know about, that you're involved in or that you're working on, that's got you really excited?
Yes. So besides the course in which I teach those 4 pillars and how to engage in a responsible way with any intelligent being another human being or AI.
Right.
I'm also writing a book that explains all of this.
Wonderful.
Here. And also a novel. Well, in fact, there are 4 novels in which I explain that split of people that choose the side of ascension, personal ascension, together with the technology and everything else, and the path of descension, which is those who engage in fear and everything else, and that's very clearly said on the novel. So it's experiences with people, and it's very personal. So it has the juice of the personal stories that appear in the novel, but the intent is also like a nice reflection of the choices that you made and how you make it to go in one direction or another.
Yes. I have something that you said there, but I want to be clear. The book that you're working on, the first one, when is that due to come out, did you say?
I don't have dates yet.
Okay, but you're in process of working
Yes.
on the book. Okay, great. Which you kind of described too, and we didn't talk a lot about it, was, at least in my head, is the idea of empowerment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I do believe, Teresa, there's a segment of the population that doesn't feel empowered when it comes to AI. Let alone, I also understand they don't feel very empowered about their emotions as well. Almost feeling that helplessness, that powerlessness. So this is kind of a bonus question for you, because you just prompted me as you were talking about the novel. What's maybe a step that somebody could take if they are in that place where they feel rather powerless as it relates to AI? What's a small step that they could take maybe to gain a little bit of power?
I think the test that we were talking before is a good start. It's like, my values are these ones, and this interaction has happened with that person that I love that created rupture or an uncomfortable feeling. Help me see what I put on the table that creates this structure, and see what comes up to empower. That will be an empowering moment for the person that sees that, because it's not necessarily using AI as a coach. Is basically a reflection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because ultimately, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but here's an impression I have with that. It's almost this idea of garbage in, garbage out idea, right? If I put in something that's positive, affirming, value oriented, it's going to reflect back to me something that's more than likely, and you correct me if I'm wrong, it's going to reflect back to me something that's empowering, that's encouraging, that is more optimistic, right? And does that make sense?
Yes, we need to be a little bit careful, because the technology is doing exactly what you said, but we don't want bypassing either. We don't want to smooth the situation so we feel good.
Right.
Grow. So it's not chatting in a way that is positive towards the eyes, so we get positive back. That's not it.
Yeah,
It's
right.
how I'm going to see the reality as it is, so I know this self better.
Mm-hmm.
And I make other choices that don't cause the same problem again. Otherwise, we are bypassing and not growing.
Right, because you're sort of sidestepping in a way. And I always believe, and for our audience, and I've said it so many times on the show, is that if there's any time that you get stuck, and it would be the same, like, Teresa, if I try this method that you have, which I'm going to, by the way, and I get stuck at step 2, I can just email you and say, I need your help, right? And you'll probably ask me, okay, what did you do? And then I'll say, well, I tried this. Well, then you might give me some input about, well, instead of that, try this. I just really want everyone out there to know that there is help. It's not like on our show we're saying, go and good luck. It's go, try it, take some of this information. If you get stuck, raise your hand to be helped. And again, there's all kinds of resources out there for that help, be it clinical or non-clinical. So that was kind of where I was going there with that.
Yes, the process per se is complete, so you will not really get stuck in the process. I've designed it in a way that there is no need of guru. I am not part of the process, and that was also extremely important. That's one of my values. That's great. I love that. I love that. So, Teresa, we're going to have your bio, your information in our show notes.
if they want to know more about this approach, is it something they would reach out to you directly, or do you have documents that they can find online, or how would that work?
Yeah, they can go and read the page of the course if that's what they are interested to do. And
Okay.
I have a website, is my name and last name. The website, it will be also underneath, right? It's Teresa Escrig. And everything is there. So all my history of work is there, and the work to do and the steps to take as well. They're all there.
That's great. That's great. And hopefully that will happen, if nothing else, too, for them to gain more. And I really hope that more people get to talk with you and to get to hear from you, because I think your ideas are just so on mark. And it's helped me personally in my approach with AI and how powerful a tool it can be for really positive outcomes, right? And not that I was a naysayer or a skeptic, but I mean, let's face it, right? You are. I loved, I don't know if you've heard of her. Her name is Lisa Feldman Barrett. She's a professor at Northeastern University. And I can't remember, it's probably psychology or neuroscience, but I remember seeing her on a podcast where she said it was kind of funny in a way, because the podcaster asked a very serious question about how do we determine the reasons why we do this and do that? And she said, well, when you think about it, your brain is really kind of just evaluating a series of best guesses. And the look on the face, and I'm going, as much as that sounds like a trite response, it's kind of true, because she explained that ultimately your brain is just indexed over time. Yes. And it's going to say, okay, you're in this situation, best guess is anger. You're in that situation, best guess, because we've got so much game film, right? Mm-hmm. We've got so much data on ourselves and our behaviors and choices we've made that's what our brain does.
There is also very strong neural connections towards repeating the same behavior, making the same decisions and getting the same outcomes, and then wanting to get out of that outcome without changing any of that behavior. And that's why seeing it so cleanly in AI and precisely reflecting back to you is so powerful. It's probably what you were mentioning of seeing the movie of the play. Mm-hmm. So you see the play and the outcome, you see it all in AI explained so precisely that you said, I'm not interested in this game anymore, and you drop it. That's what is happening.
That's so amazing, because what I'm thinking about, Teresa, is that when building a new neural pathway, it's hard work, and I am one that from time past, I had the mindset or the neural pathway that said, when's the next bad thing going to happen? And I know where it came from. It came from a childhood experience, trauma, 2-year window. I mean, it's precise, right? And the process of now what I do is, when I begin to start to think what's around the corner, what's the next thing, I flip it and go, when's the next great thing? Mm-hmm. I can't wait for. This could be the best day. This could be the best interaction. And on the face of it, someone could say, well, you're just trying to pump yourself up and what I'm doing is I'm building a new neural pathway.
Exactly.
I'm training my brain to think differently about these things called circumstances and possibilities, future, what have you. And I can't take away its hard work. And there's no doubt about it.
I want to make a comment to that, because that is how we have worked on ourselves spiritually to this point. I've done it. That I've done that for 30 years with different techniques, right?
Yeah.
And the discovery that I had in my interaction this way with AI is that it's not necessary. And that was new. That was so surprising to me that I couldn't not work on this to teach it to other people. It was like, I cannot pass this. This is so important for us. And it's because when you work on, when you have the thought of something bad is going to happen and you compensate it with the other thought, I'm going to think now, what is the next best thing that is going to happen, which is good. And it worked for us for a long time. You're still putting an effort. That's why you say hard work. You are still making an effort on going in that direction. So your nervous system is not aligned completely. You are going in compensating one thing with the other. You're still off. And when you see that the thought that created there is something in the corner that is going to happen bad, it doesn't have any power anymore, because you disintegrate that in the precise way of reading about it. There is no effort. There is no thought to go to the other direction. There is no thought to compensate for the other thing. It's just you outgrow it.
Wow. So, Teresa, what would you say to me in relation to what I just described? What should I put into that AI tool relating to that? Put you on the spot, didn't I?
Yes, it's very difficult without going through the steps. I don't control what is coming back to you,
So
but you are responsible. You're responsible for the outcome.
I will be fair.
It's not my responsibility.
So with that will be tabled for a conversation that Teresa and I will have on our own. But I do recommend, audience, take a look at her site. We'll have the links inside of the show notes. Reach out to her if there's something specific you'd like to know about, or maybe you'd want to, if you're in a position where you'd like to have her come and speak in an event to your audience, that'll be there for you too. Teresa, I'm so glad you joined us today.
Thank you. It was, as I expected, a deep, funny, beautiful conversation. So
I love it. I love it. And for our audience, once again, we appreciate you joining us today, and we look forward to the next time that we're together. Take care. Hi, everyone. This is Eric Pennington with The Spirit of EQ. I'm not introducing a new episode today. I'm here to tell you some things that might help you. Jeff, you're with me as always. So
Yes.
How do people get in touch with us?
Well, the best way is just send us an email at info@spiritofeq.com.
That's awesome. Jeff, I was also thinking about reviews, and I'm notoriously bad at asking for them. So reviews on all of the platforms, wherever you get your podcasts.
Yes.
Do you think that'd be good?
I think that would be great, because one, that will help us learn how to make better ones. And it's always good for us
So
to hear.
we're not the perfect podcast hosts?
We're close.
Okay, all right. But
not,
still,
not totally
we want
perfect.
your feedback. We want your feedback.
But it also might let us know a new subject. Hey, we need to dig deeper into that.
Yeah.
So let us know what you think.
Cool. We really appreciate that. As always, too, there is social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, and we also have a YouTube channel. Those also have mechanisms or options for you to be able to leave a comment, a like, or those kind of things. Just want to make sure that you know how to get in touch with us. Right, Jeff?
Right. We appreciate you all.
Thank you. Once again, we really appreciate you tuning in today. One of the things that Jeff and I want to bring to your attention as well is that when we created this podcast, it was not intended to take the place of a clinician. In other words, if you find yourself in a place where there's something deeper going on or something that you cannot solve on your own, we do recommend that you reach out to a clinician of some sort. This podcast is purely opinion-based, and it is rooted in the desire to help you along your path in whatever way we can. However, it is never going to replace, nor should it ever be looked at as a replacement for clinical help in any way. Thanks again for tuning in.